After a tough stretch of baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies look to be turning a corner once again, winning 8 of their last 12 and looking like the best team in baseball, which they have showcased to be throughout the past few seasons. Luke Arcaini and I are going to break down how things have turned around for this Phillies team, what guys are showing these notable steps of just progress with everything in this organization, and everything else that you got to know with this Phillies team. But before we get fully to it, do want to remind you guys, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. Now we're up to 86.9% of you guys, just that many not subscribed just yet, so appreciate the 13.1% of you that are. But we want everybody involved in this Phillies Digest family right there, so make sure you're smashing that button to help us out here. Now let's get into it, Luke. Luke, are the Phillies back?
Yeah, they're back. I have no other choice. I can't sit here and just be on my hands for the next 2 weeks and just be like, well, they have to keep playing good. No, I'm going to say they're back. The offense looks like the offense we know again. They had 45 hits out in Kansas City this weekend in 3 games. Tonight against the Astros, as we were recording, tonight was the night of the Bryce Harper walk-off. Not necessarily a ton of hits, but some timely ones, right? Some hits that they needed and they got them. Obviously, the big one was the Brandon Marsh homer. I believe that was in the 5th inning. But then after that, the Bryce Harper double to lead off the 6th, the Nick Castellanos RBI single to bring him in, right, to get that game tied. And then, like we know, the big Bryce Harper walk-off at the end. It seems like the bats are really getting this sort of timely hitting again, and this situational baseball back, which is something that they really struggled with the last few weeks, even the last month or so. But one, to see the offense as a whole get back, and I know we're going to dive into Nick Castellanos in another video, but I mean, that dude's just really been Mr. Consistent since the All-Star break. Just been unbelievable for this team. But to see Bryce Harper get that walk-off tonight, he really needed that. I think Bryce, it's sort of like basketball. I've said this before. You got to see one go in. And I think, seeing Bryce, a big night for Bryce, but I think that walk-off really helped, him and just the team as well. I think just getting that sort of the walk-off vibes, the good vibes back in. I think tonight was a really big win for the Phillies.
Yeah, 100%. And this coming after back-to-back games with 11-plus runs and 16-plus hits, the first time since 2008 that the Phillies have produced those numbers there. But I'm 100% with you that there is something to a walk-off, the kind of emotion that comes with it. And shout out to our guy Joel Embiid in the crowd, recording on a flip phone like a dad.
Did Joel Embiid save the Philly season?
Hey, I'm not going to say no here. He did get to see Johan Rojas Matumbo wag, a successful day for all. But beyond just the bats, there's a lot of good going on with this team. For starters, the bullpen. They went 4 scoreless innings tonight. We're seeing some progress from Orion Kirkring, who looks like he's sneaky back, as Bob Wankel tweets out here. What are you seeing from the bullpen, Luke?
Yeah, I think the bullpen, like Bob said about Orion, I think the bullpen's sneaky back. Orion looks great. The stuff looks really good.
Yeah.
His off speed looks basically unhittable again. I mean, if you look last 7 days for some of these relievers, Orion Kirkering hasn't allowed a run. Jose Alvarado, who obviously we saw went on the restricted list today, seems like some sort of family issue. I don't really think anything else needs to be touched there on our part. But as far as that, hopefully everything is good with Jose. Seems like it could be a little bit, unfortunately. So hopefully everything's good back there. But even Alvarado, from what we've seen over the last few days, he's looked very good from what he's been basically the first half of the year. Matt Strahm hasn't allowed an earned run his last 2 outings. Carlos Estevez, right? Jeff Hoffman, all these guys. These guys are throwing really good innings this last week or so. But really, the one for me was really Orion Kirkering. He's just looked really solid the last 1 to 2 weeks. I think the middle of the season he hit a bit of a dead arm, and I think he definitely was affected by that. But his last 3 outings, 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 4 Ks, just 1 walk. He's looked really solid. The ERA is down now to a 2.31. I mean, the dude's looked really awesome these last few weeks. Definitely a guy that this team needs to be back. If you can have 3 right-handed relievers going into October of Jeff Hoffman, Orion Kerkering, and Estevez, that's really, really good. So as long as this is the one that we'll get in October, I really like the last week from Orion Kerkering.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Jose Alvarado thing. As you mentioned, the signs indicate this does seem to be in a pretty extended period of time. Rob Thompson today saying that he has no idea what the timeline would be. Does seem like a family thing, and obviously that is the most important here. But I will note, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for him to get his mind away from baseball at this point. I don't think there's anything wrong from a baseball perspective or that could be harmful to this Phillies team for him to straight up just be away for a period of time. And I also think like we've gone through other periods where Jose Alvarado has been such a significant part of this Phillies bullpen. Not to diminish him, but he certainly is not that this year, and they can live with the ups and downs a little bit. So this team can survive without him, and we'll see when the grand picture comes together where all these puzzle pieces fit in, but it's nice to have this optionality. Now, I did want to dig in on Estevez a little bit here. I'm not saying that he hasn't looked clearly like I will say he's not looked clearly like the lockdown closer that I've hoped. He has not been bad. He's had his flashes. He's had some ups and downs. But what's your feeling on Estevez moving forward? Is he going to be like the closer, or do you think we could be heading toward a pathway, as we've seen from Topper in past years, where it's more about, changing up on a night-by-night basis for who's getting those high leverage innings?
Yeah. As far as the Estevez thing, I think until it goes south, I think he's your closer. It's been pretty obvious that
they want him to be.
I think almost every outing he's pitched has been the ninth inning since he's come to the Phillies. And I will say this: it's not always the prettiest, but he's allowed 3 earned runs since he's been a Philly, and 2 of those were in one game last Friday night against the Nationals in that blown save. So I mean, if you really take away that one bad game, he's thrown 9 innings and allowed 1 earned run. He hasn't been, I don't think, Los Angeles Estevez. But I will say, when I read some of the stuff once we got him, a lot of Angels fans were like, good luck with the highs and lows. As far as I think some of these ninth innings will definitely have you holding your breath a little bit. But I mean, the bottom line is the dude's going to get outs. He's logged some saves here, obviously, since then. I'm still confident. I will say this. If you had the option in Game 7 of the World Series right now to go to Jeff Hoffman over Estevez, I would do it absolutely. And also Matt Strahm. If as far as that situation, but I do think that if you can get Estevez back to that lockdown self, I think he's the best for the ninth, because I think Hoffman and Matt Strahm bring you so much versatility you can use in other innings. Like, I mean, we've seen so many times where, I mean, we've seen Jeff Hoffman get 1 out in the 6th inning, or we've seen Matt Strahm go in against Shohei Ohtani with 1 out in the 7th inning, right? Those are the type of pitchers, and we've seen in years past with Rob Thomson, which is a way that he loves to run his bullpen, right? He doesn't really set guys to a role. And while I think there needs to be some sort of line there, I think he's right at the line where he does it good enough. I think he knows, obviously, he's not going to throw Jeff Hoffman in the 4th inning of a baseball game.
Right.
But if you need an out in the 6th inning with 2 outs in Game 3 of the World Series, he's not afraid to go to his best reliever in the 6th inning. And I think that's big. I think an out like that can turn into a run really quick with a bad reliever, and that can change the whole game. So if you can sort of lock that down, and that also leads to really getting a good Orion Kerkering. Like if you go to Hoffman in the 6th, then you have a Matt Strahm, Orion Kerkering, Estevez last 3 innings. Like, that's still really good. So as far as the Estevez thing, if they can settle him into the closer role, I like it, because I think that still opens up that Hoffman-Strahm versatility role.
Yeah, 100% there, and it is good to have that type of versatility. It's I don't want to say a good problem to have because obviously you can only have one guy that has the opportunity in each of these innings. But the bottom line is there are more options in this Phillies bullpen than we've seen in past years, and the bats seem like they're turning around, which I think is the biggest sign of progress. There's about 30 games left until the playoffs begin here. This team does look like it is finally turning a corner, so we will see. And in the next video, we will be breaking down Nick Castellanos, what he is producing, and the steady rock that he has been for this Phillies team, which is not a phrase I thought I would ever be attaching to Nick Castellanos. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And the best way to do that is by smashing the subscribe button here. As we mentioned, 86.9% of you guys have not subscribed to Philly Digest just yet. So come join the family. Drop a subscribe on the channel. Drop a like. Drop your comments below. And we will talk next time. Peace.